With Sasha Banks reportedly done with WWE and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. With former WWE star Trent recently making his debut for AEW, president of the company Tony Khan addressed his contract status during the ROH Final Battle Media Scrum. He's been in Texas. He obviously wrestled on AEW Rampage last night. He could appear with us again. He competed last night and he was here watching the show very keenly. He could be a good opponent for any champions in Ring of Honor. He was great in a championship match last night. Speaking about William Regal following his departure from AEW, Jim Ross said on his podcast, he's a valuable asset to AEW or wherever he may be in any company. So it's been a blessing to have him around because he was one of my guys that I really worked hard to salvage a career for back in the day. And so he's been a very valuable resource. You can't replace guys with that kind of experience, and in Regal's case, also the patience to help these young guys because he was in the ring every day, at TV, and did just always had time for the talent and young green guys. I told some of them the other day, I said, I hope you guys are paying attention to him. I mentioned MJF. I said, that the more you can sit under that learning tree of William Regal and talk about the psychology of being a wrestling villain, you should, because he's got great psychology, and again, a very valuable asset to wherever he may be. I don't know what the future holds for him, but he's one of those guys you can't replace easily or at all. I don't know if you can replace him at all, quite frankly. He's been an amazing boost for us, and we'll see how I think as we speak, he might be in England. But he's been a great friend, a loyal guy, honest, hardworking, and like I said, the patience to work with some of these young cats is really amazing. It's tough, so he's been talked about a lot here, so we'll see where it goes storyline wise as we move forward. I don't have a clue. I like to not know, that. I just what's happening, and so it should be fine. He'll be good. He's a hell of a guy and has been a very valuable team member of AEW since he arrived. Revealing who came up with the New World Order name, Eric Bischoff noted on his 83 Weeks podcast. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And for years, I would tell the story, and it's the same story I'll tell today. When I was in basically a janitor closet with Hulk Hogan going through Hulk's promo, because I didn't give Hulk a script. He didn't like scripts. We'd just walk and talk through his promo, and I'd give him bullet points, and he'd give it back to me, and I maybe had a little or whatever. We just worked through it. And that's the way Hulk always worked with Gene Okerlund, and it's the way Hulk liked to work. So I was in that closet and I'm giving Hulk his promo. And in the middle of giving him that promo, I say, and then you say, this is the New World Order of professional wrestling. Now, I've told this story before. We found out that Larry used it the night before and people say, well, where did you get that New World Order from? And I always said, I don't know. It just rolled off my tongue. I had no idea where it came from. It sounded like I read a book. I'm not a, Illuminati guy and none of that. It just came and it worked. And then whatever it was, years later, we're going back and we're watching, and it was Larry Zbyszko, who the day before, whatever it was, used the term New World Order. The 24 later, it rolls off my tongue, and I didn't consciously steal it from Larry and not give credit to Larry. I just didn't know where I'd heard it or read it. It just rolled. And here we go on 83 Weeks going through a show. We went, wait a minute, that actually happened before I gave Hulk Hogan the promo. And yes, Larry, who else are you going to give credit to? Kind of obvious. Taking a shot at the AEW president on his podcast, Jim Cornette said this when it comes to differences between Tony Khan and former WWE chairman and CEO Vince McMahon. If the guys can just willy-nilly say on Twitter or out in public in front of God and everybody, yeah, Tony goes out and parties with all the guys and they do this and that and they stay up all night, and if you're in that clique, then you get preferential treatment. And even if they're not getting preferential treatment because they're in that clique, you've still established that the boss is staying up all night partying with the guys. Also on his podcast, Jim Cornette would say this about a potential feud between CM Punk and the Elite. If they had that lined up, laid out, then all this would be perfectly acceptable. And wishful thinking would indicate, that everybody would want to see that, right? Oh, yeah, everybody gets back together. We have this big program. It draws all kinds of money. But what you were overlooking is the fact that these douchebags don't want to draw money. They don't want anybody to jeopardize their position, their company, their revolution, their moment. If anybody gets over or is more important than them or shows people that they're wrestling-ish and that people still in larger numbers react to they can understand, that's bad. And you would have to assume that the Buckaroos and Twinkle Toes are willing to work with a guy like Punk, who they've had heat with, or that Tony would be willing to deal with a guy that's told him to go F himself or whatever. Now I know people are saying, well, hey, Vince McMahon has put the WWF title on a dozen guys that said F you to him or whatever before that. Yes, because Vince was all about business. This is not business. This is fantasy booking by a billionaire boy child, and the incredible windfall that the self-trained, self-important, self-indulgent nitwits have fallen into by getting said billionaire boy child to fund their vision of what wrestling is. And it ain't working because they're in the same place they were 3 years ago. But they've had tons more bad publicity. Ticket sales are going down. Ratings are going down. Everybody's getting in a fight backstage. And the only people in the locker room that have the pull with Tony to get him to do anything are the ones that are protecting their spots at the expense of everything else. Talking about the NXT champion Bron Breakker, Shawn Michaels mentioned how the star is being prepared for a main roster send-off, saying during the post-deadline press conference, I'll say this, look, Bron's always a guy I think that's always on that list. Look, everybody sees that he's special. He's our horse that we're riding here at NXT, but again, look, I guess I'll always say this. Bron is always going to be on that, that list, because everybody sees so much potential in him. He's just one, I guess, that'll look at, and again, that I say that we'd love to be able to keep him here just for a little bit longer so we can just round him out. I feel he can go up there and do things here and there on the main roster, but I think, continue to let us keep him here and help him along. I guess I feel like we have some other people that I guess maybe you could insert right in, and I don't know, not feel like you had to worry one way or another. And again, not you'd have to do it with Bron. He's gonna step up to any challenge, but he's just, look, I guess selfishly, I'd like to be able to keep him here and really round him out as perfectly as we can. When we have that opportunity, I guess I don't see the rush. I don't ever want to keep him from any opportunities. I would never do that, but again, if we have the option to keep him and make him a more well-rounded performer for the main roster, I'd love to be able to have the time to do that. But I never want to give the impression that Bron's not a guy that, we'd be thrilled to have on the main roster, because he obviously is. I would just like to I'd like to wrap him up nicely in a bow and deliver him to them. You know what I mean? Perfectly ready to go. While one star looks to be heading to the main roster down the line, Shawn Michaels said that Apollo Crews will be sticking around on NXT, saying, I have no intention of letting him go anywhere. I'll say this, I don't make the main roster decisions. I'll say that much. For now, we love him here in NXT. We have an absolute plan for Apollo going forward. He fell short tonight from an NXT championship situation, but we have more to come from him in NXT. I'll say this, look, Apollo brings us a great deal of experience, and that's something that we try to hold on to here for as long as we possibly can. Obviously, being out there, Bron is beneficial to us in Bron's development, but we feel like Apollo has a lot more knowledge and experience to help a number of other people here. So we'd love to continue to keep him here for as long as we can and get his experience out there with as many of our young talent as we can. When it comes to a return to action for former AEW Women's Champion Thunder Rosa, Dave Meltzer of F4W Online wrote that the last word we heard as she hoped to be back in February. There were a lot of people who thought she would be Saraya's mystery partner against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter on January 11th at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. But the last word on her return was February. Rosa most recently noted this in regards to her hiatus, saying on her vlog, "The recovery is going really well. This week, I was just able to do squats with a 2-pound dumbbell. I haven't done any lifting for the last 4 or 5 months, which is huge. 2 weeks ago, I was able to do a 5K, which I walked half the way because I'm not allowed to run. I can jog. That's pretty much it. Those are big milestones for me. I've not been able to be in the ring yet, so we're working on that." With it reported that Sasha Banks will be making an appearance at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 17 event on January 4th, it was noted by Meltzer that this deal is not through WWE. So if the appearance isn't blocked legally by WWE, it means she will be a free agent by that date. WWE can still sign her, but NJPW believes she is free and clear by January 4th. New Japan star Jay White would say this about the appearance from Banks, as Fightful reported. "We asked him about rumors of Sasha Banks and NJPW, and he said that he hasn't heard anything, but he'd love to introduce himself to her. We asked if we thought she'd make a good addition to Bullet Club. He said that's why he wants to introduce himself." It would even be noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that she's not going back to WWE, but you cannot always rule that out. Maybe they'll just say she's more trouble than she's worth. She's asking for so much money, which is, of course, the attitude a month ago of, oh my god, how can she ask for so much money? January 4th, Tokyo Dome and other dates, and Mercedes Varnado, or whatever name she will go with, but as of right now, she's done with WWE. It can change at any moment, but that's the situation right now. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.